This is your weekly roundup on the EAC News Channel. Your look back at the past week here in the Kingdom of Wonder. A very good evening to you. I'm Paolo Bonini, and we start with Monday.
After 7 months of delay, Prime Minister Hun Sen has finally inaugurated the new building of the Ministry of Land Management, Urban Planning and Construction. The new building is located in Phnom Penh's Sinsuk district. The inauguration was originally scheduled last April, but due to COVID-19, it did not happen. The Prime Minister says that he is glad to finally inaugurate the new building of the ministry amid the COVID-19 pandemic. He has said that this is just one of the ministries that are waiting for inauguration. On 29 December, the Prime Minister will also inaugurate the Ministry of Defense. It was in January this year when he announced to conduct the official inauguration ceremony of the new building of the Ministry of Land Management. But because of COVID-19, all activities and ceremonies were being held back. But a week ago, Prime Minister Hun Sen has declared Cambodia as fully reopened. It led to the reopening of many businesses. He has emphasized that there will be no more closures because of COVID-19. If there are COVID-positive patients, then they will be sent to treatment centers, but no more lockdowns and closures. The Australian Foreign Minister Marise Payne has paid a courtesy visit to Prime Minister Hun Sen at the Peace Palace on Monday. Meeting with the Cambodian Prime Minister was first on her list after she arrived in Cambodia on Sunday. The Australian minister has also visited her Cambodian counterpart, Prak Sokhonn, discussing bilateral issues. EAC News reporter Paolo Bonini has the story.
The Australian Foreign Minister, who is also the Minister of Women's Affairs, Marise Payne, has paid a courtesy visit to Prime Minister Hun Sen on Monday morning. She was warmly welcomed by the Prime Minister. It was part of her two-day official visit in the kingdom in response to the invitation of Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn. Prime Minister Hun Sen has revealed on Monday that one of the important topics to be discussed during her visit was about the US-UK-Australia trilateral alliance. This was also confirmed by the Prime Minister's assistant, Eng Sopalite. He says Prime Minister Hun Sen has agreed on the relationships between Cambodia and Australia in both bilateral and multilateral frameworks. Australia has been acknowledged by the Prime Minister in helping the kingdom in many fields, especially in the fields of agriculture, military and education, as well as opening up Cambodian students to study in Australia in the field of health. As Australia earlier pledged to donate COVID-19 vaccines to Cambodia, the Prime Minister has expressed his gratitude in advance. Apart from visiting Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, Payne has also visited the Cambodian Organisation for Crisis Women, where she was welcomed by the Minister of Women's Affairs, Ong Konta Parvi. Australia and Cambodia began diplomatic ties in 1952. Australia has been providing strong support for Cambodia's path to peace in the late 1980s and early 1990s, including playing a leading role in the United Nations Transitional Authority in Cambodia. Until today, Cambodia has acknowledged Australia for remaining firm to its commitment to the kingdom's development. Paolo Bonini, EAC News.
A police officer has been arrested for murdering his brother-in-law in Battambang province. The arrest was made by the Serious Criminal Force of Battambang on Thursday, after the victim's body was found already in a decomposition state. Battambang Serious Crime Unit says the murder case has been under investigation for over 2 months. EAC News reporter Paolo Bonini has the story.
It was on the morning of the 31st of August that villagers were horrified to discover the body of Yang Surat, a 45-year-old male in the Don Ba commune. He had been savagely beaten to death and his body partially buried in a local forest. In an attempt to cover up his crime, the murderer dug a hole to hide the corpse, but the body was not fully concealed and was soon found by locals. The victims showed signs of severe bludgeoning about both the face and the head. These injuries were the probable cause of death. According to the police report, the victim had been previously arrested for a minor disturbance. He was last seen with the suspect, Deputy Inspector General Da Soka, on the 28th of August, who is the brother-in-law of the victim. The police officer was transporting the victim back to his home on release. That was the last time the victim was seen alive. Police say the case is now closed. Paolo Bonini, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has finally given a green light to wedding ceremonies. He made the announcement during the inauguration of the new building of the Ministry of Land Management, Urban Planning and Construction. However, he has clarified that only a limited number of people are allowed. EAC News reporter Yuri Matusko has the details.
Around 200 guests are allowed per event. Workers such as waitresses, cooks, and filmmaking team are not included as part of the limited number. That is the instruction of Prime Minister Hun Sen as the country is living in a new normal way, living with COVID-19 but preventing the spread of it. Since March this year, the Prime Minister has imposed a ban on wedding parties in response to few outbreaks in wedding ceremonies, which are also related to the 20 February community transmission outbreak. As weddings are finally back, the Prime Minister Hun Sen has reminded the wedding organizers to always ensure safety by following the 3 do's and 3 don'ts set by the Ministry of Health. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
Kingdom of Cambodia will celebrate its 60th anniversary of national independence on Tuesday. It was on the 9th of November, 1953, when Cambodia was freed by the French Protectorate. A ceremony will be led by His Majesty King Norodom Sihamuni, lighting the victory flame at the Independence Monument. It will be attended by heads of different ministries and government leaders to pay a tribute to all Cambodians who have sacrificed their lives to get independence. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has the story.
For nearly a century, Cambodia was part of the French colonial empire in Southeast Asia. During World War II, the Franco-Thai War left the French Indo-Chinese colonial authorities in a position of weakness. The Proctorate was established in 1863 when the Cambodian King Norodom requested establishment of a French Proctorate over his country. Cambodia was integrated into the French Indochina Union in 1887, along with the French colonies and proctorates in Vietnam. In 1946, Cambodia was granted self-rule within the French Union and had its protectorate status abolished in 1949. Cambodia finally gained its independence 9 November 1953, thanks to the late King Father Norodom Sihanouk. His several negotiations resulted to the full control of Cambodia's national defense, police, courts, and financial matters. The Cambodians were finally declared free of any foreigner ruling, with the command of military forces given to the king in October 1953, in which the official ceremony date set is the 9th of November 1953. Since then, King Sihanouk became a hero for the Khmer people, being known as the Father of Independence. On Monday afternoon, delegations from different government ministries and institutions have given laurels under the royal statue of the late King Father Norodom Sihanouk, a way to pay a high gratitude to the late King Sihanouk for the heroism he did for everyone to be freed. Cambodians have been enjoying 68 years of freedom now. No more protectorate, no more foreigner ruling. This monument behind reminds us all of the heroic deed the late King Sihanouk did to achieve liberty for its people and for its kingdom in what is called now independence. Yuri Matosko, EAC News, Independence Monument, Phnom Penh.
Now for a look at news making international headlines this Monday, 8th of November.
Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi has narrowly escaped an assassination attempt on Sunday after an explosive-laden drone targeted his residence in Baghdad, the country's military reported, while 7 of Kadhimi's security personnel were injured. The Prime Minister has called the attacks cowardly, saying that they work against a better future for the country. Al-Kadhimi calls for calm and constructive dialogue for the sake of Iraq in the future of Iraq. 3 drones were used in the attack, including 2 that were intercepted and downed by security forces, while a third drone hit the residence and that they had been launched from around 12 kilometers northeast of Baghdad. Footage from Iraqi Prime Minister's office shows the damage of the blast. A vehicle parked outside his home was seen damaged, with the windows blown out, surrounded by rubble, and some shutters on the ground along with the debris from the impact. No group immediately claimed responsibility. A spokesman for the Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief says that the security situation was stable inside the Green Zone, which houses the residents, government buildings, and foreign embassies following the attack.
At least 99 people died on Friday after a fuel tanker exploded in a suburb of Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown. The Director of Communications of Sierra Leone's National Disaster Management Agency, Mohamed Lamran Ba, also confirmed that several people were also in critical condition following the explosion. The explosion has occurred after 2 vehicles collided on the highway while the fuel tanker was about to enter a nearby filling station to discharge its fuel, the NDMA says in a statement. Eyewitnesses have recalled that while the collision took place, both drivers came out of their vehicles and warned community residents to stay off the scene while trying to address a leakage emanating from the collision. But some community members still rushed to the scene and took advantage of the leakage to scoop fuel and store it in nearby makeshift structures. Then a major explosion happened that results in a big fire disaster. Ambulances were assembled to take charred bodies and those in critical situations to various hospitals in Freetown. Most of the victims included people who had flocked to collect fuel leaking from the tanker vehicle. Accidents with tanker trucks in sub-Saharan Africa have previously killed scores of people who gathered at the site to collect spilled fuel and were hit by secondary blasts.
And 8 dead, 10-year-old critical following crowd surge at Astroworld Festival in Houston, Texas. 2 teenagers were among the 8 victims who died on Friday night during rapper Travis Scott's sold-out rap concert. Houston Fire Chief Samuel Peña has confirmed the casualty. At around 9 p.m., the crowd that had gathered for a performance by Travis Scott, people began to push toward the front of the stage, causing panic and injuries. It led to a stampede. More than 300 people were also treated throughout the event at an on-site field hospital. Around 50,000 showed up for the 2-day event. The second day of the festival has been canceled.
His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni has already left for France on Wednesday morning. The King will attend the 41st General Assembly of the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. With his absence in the Kingdom of Cambodia, the King has permitted the Senate President, Sai Chum, to lead the closing ceremony of the Independence Day on Thursday. EAC News reporter Paolo Bonini has our top story.
In a letter released last Friday, King Norodom Sihamoni has announced that he will be out of the country from the 10th to the 15th of November. The King is attending the UNESCO's 41st General Assembly. The assembly is being held in France in line with UNESCO's 75th anniversary. There will be an exhibition entitled UNESCO's Adventures that showcases the history of UNESCO and its achievements, including the protection of intangible heritage and the expansion of the notion of cultural heritage. Cambodia's king will deliver a message at the opening ceremony of the General Assembly. With his absence in the Kingdom of Cambodia, the king has appointed Senate President Sai Chum to act as the head of state. He will also represent the king on the closing ceremony of the Independence Day on Thursday. The Senate President will be the one to extinguish the victory torch at the Independence Monument. Paolo Bonini, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has remembered his son's death during Pol Pot's genocidal regime. He has recalled the tragic experience to their family that happened 45 years ago. The Prime Minister says he can still vividly remember when his newly born son was struck by the doctor, causing his instantaneous death. Prime Minister and his family have spent time at their son's graveyard on Wednesday morning, remembering the tragic moment. EAC News reporter Yuri Matusko has more.
Fathers and mothers will never forget the tragedy that befell to their children. This is what Prime Minister Hun Sen has stated on his social media page as he remembers the tragic death of his eldest son 45 years ago. Named Hun Kamsot, he was just a newborn when he died on 10 November 1976. According to the Prime Minister, his wife just gave birth to his son when he was dropped by the doctor holding him, causing his death. He arrived at the hospital where his wife Bunrani Hun Sen gave birth with his son already dead. He says his wife gave birth alone. He was not on her side when it happened. Because at that time, the Khmer Rouge regime, people all over the country had lesser rights compared to animals. Prime Minister Hun Sen says he was shocked when he stepped into the hospital and was shouted that his wife had gave birth and the baby was dead. He immediately ran and he only saw blood was flowing from his son's mouth. He tried to shout for help to save his life while his wife was unconscious, not knowing her children was dead. The Prime Minister says there was nothing he could do. He asked the cruel commander to let him bury his son and take care of his wife after giving birth. But his request was not granted. Instead, he got insulted. He was not told that the doctors could bury his child because no matter if he would be the one to bury him, his child would never come to life. He was forced to leave his son's corpse with his wife still lying on the bed unconscious. The Prime Minister says that every time he remembers this tragic moment, he couldn't help but cry. He says the pain is unbearable and unexplainable. Prime Minister Hun Sen says he will never forget Pol Pot's abusive regime, killing millions of people, including his son. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen and Slovenian Prime Minister Janez Janša have virtually met on Tuesday evening. The two prime ministers have discussed improving the relations and cooperations between the two countries. Prime Minister Hun Sen has fully agreed to strengthen and expand the cooperation with Slovenia in all areas. This was decided during a virtual meeting with the Slovenian Prime Minister Janez Janša on Tuesday evening. It was confirmed by the Prime Minister's assistant, Ing Supalit. Supalit says that the two prime ministers have discussed potential areas for cooperation, including tourism, health, trade, and the economy. They have also talked about the exchange of visits to successfully promote the cooperation between the two countries. The Cambodian and the Slovenian prime ministers have also agreed that they will hand over the work leading to stronger cooperation to their ministries of foreign affairs. One of the topics that will be reviewed by the two countries is the visa waiver for diplomats and other officials. In addition, the two heads of state have discussed the multilateral framework, which includes to strengthen cooperation in the fight against COVID-19. Prime Minister Hun Sen says that Cambodia is committed to promote free trade negotiations between ASEAN and the European Union, as the country is chairing the upcoming 13th summit of the Asia-Europe meeting, which will be held on 25 to 26 November through a video conference. Cambodia will also start chairing the ASEAN in 2022, which can be a great opportunity to further strengthen the cooperation. Slovenian Prime Minister Janez Janša has invited Prime Minister Hun Sen to visit his country early next year, which was accepted by the Cambodian Prime Minister. According to a report by Trade Economics in 2020, trade between the two countries was about $500,000. The 2 days visit of the Australian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Marise Payne, in Cambodia have yielded a fruitful outcome. The Australian Foreign Minister has relayed Australia's commitment to provide over 2 million doses of Pfizer vaccine to Cambodia. Prime Minister Hun Sen, as well as the Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn, have expressed gratitude to Australia's continuous support, along with the growing bilateral and multilateral cooperation between the two countries. EAC News reporter Yuri Matusko has the story.
Australian Foreign Minister Marise Payne has paid a courtesy visit to Prime Minister Hun Sen on Monday. She has confirmed to the Prime Minister that Australia will provide 2.35 million doses of Pfizer vaccine to aid in Cambodia's fight against COVID-19. The first 1 million will arrive in the kingdom by the end of this year. They have also discussed about the Trilateral Security Partnership, or AUKUS. Spain has reaffirmed to the Cambodian Prime Minister that their participation in AUKUS is aimed at acquiring nuclear-powered submarine in order to develop capacity of its navy. She says they have no intention to establish a civil nuclear capability and that Australia remains committed to the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons in the region. The Australian Foreign Minister has also reaffirmed Australia's commitment to continue assisting and cooperating with Cambodia in various areas, such as economic development, demining, agriculture, health, and education, particularly the continuous provision of scholarship to Cambodian students every year under the Australian Award Scholarships and Mekong Australia Partnership programs. Spain has also met with her Cambodian counterpart, Prak Sokhonn. Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn has expressed gratitude towards the Australian government for their support through the official development assistance, particularly assistance towards Cambodia's urgent need in the fight against the pandemic. Since Spain is also the Minister of Women's Affairs in Australia, she has also paid a visit to Cambodia's Minister of Women's Affairs in Kantapavy and visited Cambodian Women's Crisis Center. She has committed to support Cambodia with the promotion of gender equality and addressing violence against women. Yuri Matosco, EAC News.
New York federal prosecutors have filed a civil complaint against Denver Art Museum, keeping Cambodian artifacts acquired from the British art dealer and alleged smuggler, Douglas Latchford. The late Latchford was best known as a collector of Cambodian antiquities. Some of them have already been returned to the kingdom. The move, initiated by the United States, is to help the Cambodian government retrieve its valuable artifacts. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosco has the details.
The case, United States of America versus a late 12th century Khmer sandstone sculpture, Depking standing Prajna Paramita, has been filed on Monday. It is seeking the return of 4 pieces the Denver Art Museum that were acquired from Douglas Latchford. Latchford was known as one of the world's experts on Khmer Empire arts. In 2019, he was charged for being involved in looting and smuggling antiquities out of Cambodia and then selling them for millions of dollars. He later died in August 2020. Some of the Cambodian antiquities he took from Cambodia have already been returned this year through the coordination of the US government, his family, and Cambodia's Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts. The U.S. Attorney for Southern New York, Damian Williams, has released a statement saying, as alleged, Douglas Latchford papered over the problematic provenance of Cambodian antiquities with falsehoods, in the process successfully placing stolen goods in the permanent collection of an American museum. The court indicates that Latchford tricked the museum that he obtained the pieces legally. Accordingly, Denver Art Museum paid him over $800,000 for the 2 sculptures. The museum voluntarily relinquished custody of the 4 Khmer artifacts. The artifacts are believed to be 7th to 8th century old, including the Khmer sandstone sculpture depicting the sun god Surya. Yuri Matosco, EAC News.
Now for a look at news-making international headlines this Wednesday, 10th of November.
A footage shows how a migrant on Poland-Belarus border used a shovel in an attempt to break the razor wire fence and cross from Belarus to Poland on Monday, while others tried pulling down the metal fence and forcing their way through. Poland says it has repelled attempts by migrants to enter the country at its eastern border with Belarus, warning that thousands more were on the way. The Polish government called for an emergency crisis meeting on Monday and deployed 12,000 troops to the region. Poland accuses Belarus of pushing the migrants toward the border, describing it as a hostile activity. Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia say there's been a surge in the number of people trying to enter their countries illegally from Belarus in recent months. Many of them have come from the Middle East and Asia. The European Union has accused Belarus authoritarian President Alexander Lukashenko of facilitating the influx in retaliation against sanctions and must stop instrumentalization migrants at border. Belarusian government has repeatedly denied creating a migrant crisis, blaming the West for the crossings and the treatment of migrants at the border.
Iran's military has launched an annual exercise near the coast of the Gulf of Oman on Sunday, a few weeks before resumption of talks between Tehran and world powers to revive a 2015 nuclear deal. Artillery and rockets were fired during the exercise called Zulfikar 1400. A military parade was also held on Tuesday with helicopter, warship and a submarine deployed. The spokesman for the Zulfikar 1400 drill, Admiral Mahmoud Mousavi, says that the aim of the military exercise is to display the country's military might and readiness to confront their enemies. The exercise covers an area from the eastern parts of the Strait of Hormuz to the northern parts of the Indian Ocean and parts of the Red Sea. About a fifth of oil that is consumed globally passes through the strategic Straits of Hormuz waterway in the Gulf. Periodic confrontations have taken place between Iran's military and U.S. forces in the Gulf since 2018, when former U.S. President Donald Trump exited the nuclear pact and reimposed harsh sanctions against Tehran. Iran has reacted by breaching the deal's limits on its nuclear program. Indirect talks between Iran and U.S. President Joe Biden's administration to revive the pact, which were put on hold since the election of Iran's hardline President Ibrahim Raisi in June, are set to resume in Vienna on 29 November.
And President Joe Biden cheering because U.S. House passes $1 trillion infrastructure bill on Friday night. He says it's a once-in-a-generation investment that will create millions of jobs. Democrat Biden's Republican predecessor Donald Trump declared Infrastructure Week in 2018 but was unable to pass a bill after multiple tries during his presidency. The bipartisan bill's passage gives President Biden a jolt of good news after sobering election losses for his Democratic Party this week in a drop in his approval ratings. Referring to the losses, Biden has said they showed American people what they want his government to deliver.
We did something that's long overdue, that long has been talked about in Washington, but never actually been done. The House of Representatives passed an Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That's a fancy way of saying a bipartisan infrastructure bill, a once-in-a-generation investment that's going to create millions of jobs, modernize our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our broadband, a whole range of things, to turn the climate crisis into an opportunity. And it puts us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with China and other large countries and the rest of the world. It's going to create more jobs, good-paying jobs, union jobs that can't be outsourced, and they're going to transform our transportation system with the most significant investments in passenger rail, the most significant investment in 50 years, in roads and bridges, the most significant investment in 70 years, and more investment in public transit than we've ever made.
Biden said he will sign the bipartisan bill soon in a formal signing ceremony that highlights all the people who work on it, Democrats and Republicans alike.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni has arrived in France on Thursday, a day after he left the 68th Independence Day anniversary of Cambodia. The King left Cambodia for France on Wednesday to attend the UNESCO's 41st General Assembly. He will be delivering a message on how Cambodia has been actively participating in the protection and preservation of culture and heritage. EAC News reporter Ria Soka has the story.
Cambodian ambassador to France, Kit Supan, has confirmed the arrival of King Norodom Sihamoni in Paris. The king is attending the 41st General Assembly of UNESCO. The assembly is being conducted in accordance with UNESCO's 75th founding anniversary. Its Director General Audrey Azoulay invited Cambodia's king to participate in the event. King Sihamoni is expected to deliver a speech at the opening ceremony on Friday, focusing on the accomplishments of UNESCO in Cambodia. Apart from the king, Minister of Culture and Fine Arts Poing Sakuna and some members of the Cambodian National Commission for UNESCO are also in France to attend the activity. An exhibition entitled UNESCO Adventures will showcase the history of UNESCO and its achievements, including the protection of intangible heritage and the expansion of the notion of the cultural heritage. Cambodia has joined UNESCO on the 3rd of July 1951 and has been an active member since in the promotion of the preservation, protection, and development of culture, economy, society, and science. Reyes Soko, EAC News.
The Kingdom of Cambodia has now ended the 68th Independence Day anniversary celebration on Thursday. Due to King Norodom Sihamoni's absence, Senate President Se Chum extinguished the victory torch during the closing ceremony. The torch symbolizes Cambodia's freedom from the French protectorate in 1953 through the late effort of King Norodom Sihanouk. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has the latest.
His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni has appointed Senate President Saichon to lead the closing ceremony of the 68th anniversary of the Independence Day on Thursday. He was permitted him to quench the victory torch at the Independence Monument in the capital. The closing ceremony coincides with the UNESCO's 41st General Assembly in France, in which the king is attending. Cambodia's Independence Day celebration lasts for 3 days. It was opened on Tuesday and was closed on Thursday. Several government officials have attended both the opening and the closing ceremony. Due to COVID-19, this year's celebration has been limited when it comes to the number of people. The same with last year. But despite the pandemic situation in the kingdom, Cambodia never skips and never forgets to honor this special day, as well as the father of Independence Day, King Norodom Sihanouk, when Cambodians consider it as their hero. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
North Korea President congratulates Cambodia's king on the 68th Independence Day anniversary. On the occasion of the 68th Independence Day anniversary, Cambodia has received congratulatory messages from different heads of states and leaders. One of them is President of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. The North Korean president highlights the long-standing friendship and cooperation between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Kingdom of Cambodia. EAC news reporter Ria Soko has the story.
The North Korean President Kim Jong-un has congratulated Cambodia's King Norodom Sihamoni on the country's 68th independence anniversary. He has expressed his warm congratulations to the king on Wednesday. Cambodia celebrated the 68 years of being free from the French protectorate on Tuesday, with King Sihamoni leading the ceremony. Kim Jong-un says, on behalf of the government and his people, he extends his warm congratulations to His Majesty King and the government and the people of Cambodia. He has added that it is the common desire and aspiration of their two peoples to invariably strengthen and develop the long-standing and traditional relations of friendship and cooperation between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Kingdom of Cambodia. The North Korean president has also wished His Majesty King Sihamoni good health and happiness, as well as success in his work for the prosperity of the country. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Cambodia has hosted the 27th ASEAN Transport Ministers meeting on Thursday. In his opening remarks, Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged the ASEAN transport leaders to integrate the new normal way for the region to be more resilient. The ASEAN Transport Ministers' virtual meeting is in line with the slogan, "We care, we prepare, we grow." Prime Minister Hun Sen urged ASEAN to implement the ASEAN Master Plan through infrastructure, institutional connectivity, and connection between people. He also made recommendations in a number of areas for ASEAN to operate smoothly in the new context by implementing the action plan under the ASEAN Comprehensive Rehabilitation Framework, emphasizing regional connectivity with further actions in all parts of the transport sector. He also encouraged the ASEAN members to expedite the signing and implementation of the ASEAN EU, ASEAN New Zealand and ASEAN Air Transport Agreements. He says that they will work as a bridge in connecting the ASEAN to the world. In addition, the Prime Minister suggests to seek dialogue partners, funds and technical assistance to promote the development of further transport infrastructure in the region.
ខ្ញុំសូមបញ្ជាក់ជូនអង្គពិធីផងដែរថាក្រោយពីកម្ពុជាបានចូលជាសមាជិកវេទិកាដឹកជញ្ជូនអន្តរជាតិខ្ញុំសង្ឃឹមថាកម្ពុជានឹងអាចទទួលបាននិងចូលរួមរំលែកបទពិសោធន៍និងចំណេះដឹងល្អៗជាមួយសមាជិកដទៃទៀតសម្រាប់ជាទុនមួយក្នុងដំណើរការអភិវឌ្ឍវិស័យដឹកជញ្ជូនរបស់អាស៊ានទាំងមូល
Prime Minister has concluded his speech recommending to continue to implement the ASEAN Transport Strategic Plan from 2016 through to 2025, also encouraging the use of environmentally friendly vehicles to address the environmental impact caused by traffic jams, greenhouse gases, and other pollutants. The United Nations Assistant Secretary-General, Khalid Kahari, has lauded the royal government of Cambodia for its vaccination success against COVID-19. He has paid a courtesy visit to Cambodia's Foreign Minister, Prak Sokhonn, on Wednesday, affirming that the UN is ready to provide further support to Cambodia's sustainable development. EAC news reporter Ria Soko has more.
On his first-time visit to the Kingdom of Cambodia, UN's Assistant Secretary-General Khalid Kahari says the country's vaccination success is leading to a strong recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. He made the visit at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, having a deep discussion with Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn. The foreign minister has reflected on Cambodia's revival since 1979 and achievement of durable peace, national reconciliation, and socio-economic development after the completion of the UN Transitional Authority in Cambodia in 1993. As the ASEAN-UN Comprehensive reaches 10th year, the two officials have discussed on accelerating the cooperation in various areas. Those areas identified in the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework. They have also shared the same view on encouraging close cooperation between the UN Secretary-General's Special Envoy and the ASEAN Chair's Special Envoy on Myanmar. UN Assistant Secretary-General Khalid Kiare and Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn are both looking forward to further progress in the implementation of the ASEAN-UN Plan of Action 2021-2025. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
Now for a look at news making international headlines this Thursday, the 11th of November.
Russian strategic bombers have carried out flights over Belarus on Wednesday in a show of support for Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko as a standoff over thousands of migrants continued on the country's border with Poland. The Russian Defense Ministry has confirmed that two Tu-22 M3 bombers have patrolled the airspace and helped test Belarus and Russia's joint air defense system. The patrolling mission was undertaken amid rising tensions between Minsk and Warsaw over a migrant crisis at their mutual border. The Russian Foreign Ministry has warned the European Union against provoking Belarus president with further sanctions, after Poland and its neighbors accused him of deliberately sending people from the Middle East, Asia, and Africa to illegally cross their borders.
The scene was tense on the streets of Bolivia on Tuesday as protesters and police faced off over a law against so-called illicit profits and terrorists' financing that critics claim is a government tactic to seize private property. Opposition civil and political groups have joined the strike, accusing the socialist government of President Luis Arce of using laws and the justice system to centralize power and crack down on opposition. Thousands of union members marched in the main cities of the landlocked South American country against the law, while drivers suspended public transport services. While in the city of Santa Cruz, protesters blockaded roads. Footage showed police using a water cannon and tear gas near protesters. A top union leader says the government is doubtful and wants to find out where the unions get their money and their merchandise. He further claims that there is a big fear on the part of the government that they will take everything from them. The strike, while widespread, did not have the support of the powerful Central Obrera Boliviana Union, which is more closely allied with the government. The country has been sharply divided since the abrupt resignation of former socialist leader Evo Morales in 2019 amid protests. His party, back in power with a new president, accuses the conservative opposition of leading a coup against him.
And heavy rain in Sri Lanka leaves 25 people dead and thousands displaced. Most deaths have occurred due to drowning and lightning strikes in Sri Lanka. The heavy rains have also affected